Thank the member for Lyons. Question is the bill be now read a second time, and I call the minister.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker. Let me begin by thanking members who have contributed to this debate. This bill is part of the government's plan to modernise and update Australia's tax and superannuation laws. The bill removes uncertainty from our tax and superannuation laws and removes laws that are ineffective and outdated. It will make our laws more relevant, provide incentives for investment so that Australia can better compete on the global stage. This government, with the release of the tax white paper earlier this year, is demonstrating its ongoing commitment to Australians to modernise our tax laws and make genuine reforms. The amendments today are a step towards that. Schedule 1 to this bill will abolish first home saver accounts. First home saver accounts have failed to live up to the promises that were made during their introduction. Rather than the $6.5 billion in total combined savings promised by the previous government at the beginning of last year, there were fewer than 50,000 open accounts containing total combined savings of only $540 million, less than 10% of what was initially predicted. Abolishing first home saver accounts will save more than $130 million over the years to 2017-18. We know that owning a home is an important goal for many people across the country, and we know that rising house costs means that this goal seems further and further out of reach every day. But first home saver accounts don't address the underlying reason for rising house costs in Australia, one of which is that the supply of housing is failing to keep up with strong growth in demand. As part of the government's wider deregulation agenda, we are working with state and territory governments to reduce the regulatory barriers currently holding up the supply of housing and construction. This will increase land release for new homes, leading to an improvement in housing affordability for all Australians. Schedule 2 to this bill will abolish the dependent spouse tax offset with effect from 1 July 2014. This will make our tax system more equitable and will return $320 million to the budget over the years 2017-18. When the dependent spouse tax offset was introduced in the early 20th century, its purpose was to provide a concession to taxpayers who maintained a dependent spouse. Our welfare system has developed markedly since then, with a wide range of more tailored support available. With changes in our society as well as our economy, this offset is now outdated. Given the support now available through the welfare system, as well as the need to promote workforce participation, this concession is no longer needed, and in the current budget situation, that's simply not sustainable. This measure is an important step towards repairing the budget and is also part of the government's broader agenda to encourage participation. Schedule 3 to this bill amends the taxation laws to modernise and improve the integrity of the offshore banking unit regime. This bill contains changes that include key recommendations arising from the 2009 report, Australia as a Financial Centre, known as the Johnson Report, aimed at improving Australia's position as a leading financial services centre. The offshore banking unit reforms will better target the offshore banking unit tax concession by updating the list of eligible activities encouraging genuine mobile financial activities. Alongside these changes, we will also improve the integrity of the regime to ensure that this concession is not subject to abuse. The government believes that this bill strikes an appropriate balance between encouraging offshore banking unit activity and maintaining the integrity of the tax system. Schedule 4 to this bill adds one organisation to the list of named income tax exempt entities in Division 50 of the Income Tax Assessment Act 1997. The new listed entity is the Global Infrastructure Hub Limited. The Global Infrastructure Hub Limited was established to implement G20's multi-year infrastructure agenda. The Australian Government, along with several other countries, have pledged financial contributions to the Global Infrastructure Hub Limited. Without the amendment to the Act, the contributions made to the Global Infrastructure Hub Limited will be assessable and will be taxed accordingly. It would be inappropriate for the Australian Government to tax assistance provided to the Global Infrastructure Hub Limited under an arrangement agreed to as part of Australia's G20 presidency. Schedule 5 to this bill extends the specific listings of two entities as deductible gift recipients for a further 3 years: Australian Peacekeeping Memorial Project and the National Boer War Memorial Association. Both the Australian Peacekeeping Memorial Project and the National Boer War Memorial Association have fallen short of their fundraising targets. The extension of their deductible gift recipient status will help the listed entities attract public financial support for their activities, as taxpayers can claim an income tax deduction for certain gifts to deductible gift recipients. Schedule 6 to this bill makes a number of amendments across the tax law to provide certainty for taxpayers. These amendments make sure that the law operates as intended by correcting technical or drafting defects, removing anomalies and addressing unintended outcomes. This furthers the government's commitment to restore simplicity and fairness to the Australian tax system. It also demonstrates the government's commitment to the care and maintenance of the tax law. By clarifying the law and repealing unnecessary provisions, these amendments also further the government's deregulation agenda. A number of the amendments relate to the issues lodged on the tax issues entry system, a platform for members of the community to raise issues regarding the care and maintenance of the Australian government's tax and superannuation system. These include ensuring that life insurance companies are not inappropriately liable for franking deficit tax, correcting inconsistent wording in the definition of in-house residual fringe benefits, and updating a diagram intended to provide guidance on when an entity is required to or may register for the goods and services taxed. Schedule 6 to this bill also clarifies the operation of other areas of the tax law, including how employee share ownership schemes are intended to be taxed in the context of a demerger. Additional amendments fix a defect in the law preventing the Commissioner of Taxation from revoking access to certain tax concessions due to past periods of non-compliance by the entity seeking to rely on the concessions. Schedule 7 to the bill amends the income tax laws to implement reforms to the investment manager regime. This bill represents the final stage of changes to give effect to a new regime, as envisioned the Johnson report as referred to earlier. The IMR will promote Australia as a financial services centre by encouraging foreign investment in Australia from foreign managed funds that are widely held and encouraging foreign investment through Australian fund managers. The IMR does this by providing greater clarity and certainty regarding the tax treatment of foreign investors, including foreign managed funds. These reforms have been carefully designed so that they strike an appropriate balance between encouraging foreign investment and ensuring the integrity of the regime. Additional parliamentary amendments have been made to Schedule 7 to address concerns raised with the Senate Economics Legislation Committee. These changes are intended to clarify the operation of certain provisions to give the funds management industry confidence that they can take advantage of the IMR concession as intended. Full details of each of these measures are contained in the explanatory memorandum. In conclusion, Mr Deputy Speaker, this bill is very much a part of the government's overall plan to update and modernise our tax system. Our tax system must adapt to the changes that are happening around us. These changes today lay the groundwork for our continued efforts to ensure our tax system is efficient, modern and well targeted. The dialogue we are having with Australians through the tax white paper process is part of our strategy to improve our tax systems. An effective and relevant tax system is the foundation to any healthy working economy. Our commerce and industries are more connected internationally today than ever. We're confronted with new business models through the increased use of the internet and business operations, which are increasingly borderless and posing challenges for tax systems globally. Our tax system has to evolve to stay current. We must continue to adapt to our changing environment and ensure our tax system is one that is sustainable, efficient and relevant. And I commend this bill to the House.
I thank the Minister. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. All those that opinion say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The Clerk.
Second reading, a bill for an act to amend the law relating to first home saver accounts, taxation, superannuation and charities, and to amend the Product Stewardship Oil Act 2000 and for related purposes.
The House will now consider the bill in detail. I understand it's a wish of the House to take this bill as a whole. The question is that the bill be agreed to. All those opinions aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The Minister.
I present a supplementary explanatory memorandum to the bill, and I ask leave of the House to move Government Amendments 1 to 13 as circulated together.
Leave granted. Leave is granted. The Minister.
I move Government Amendments 1 to 13 as circulated together. These parliamentary amendments being made to the investment manager regime are to address concerns raised by industry that certain provisions lack the clarity required to allow Australian fund managers to take advantage of the IMR concession as intended. These concerns were raised with the Senate Economics Legislation Committee. Significantly, changes to the schedule ensure that sub-underwriting arrangements will be covered regardless of the outcome of the arrangement. The reference to permanent establishment clearly refers to either the relevant international tax agreement or the definition in the Income Tax Assessment Act 1936. In satisfying the widely held requirement, any independent fund managers may disregard any entitlement provided that the entitlement is taxed in the year it is received. There are other technical drafting errors that are also being corrected to avoid the need to make future amendments in Parliament. In addition, and consistent with the Senate Economics Legislation Committee recommendation, a supplementary explanatory memorandum has been revised to provide industry with further clarification to cover certain terms and concepts. As the IMR seeks to remove uncertainties in Australia's tax laws, these changes will ensure that foreign investors can invest through or into Australia with tax certainty, and that Australian fund managers can actively market their financial services globally.
Question is that the amendments be agreed to. All those opinions say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The question now is that this bill, as amended, be agreed to. All those that opinion say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. This bill, as amendment, has been agreed to. The Minister.
I ask leave of the House to move the third reading immediately.
Leave is granted. Leave is granted. Minister.
I move that this bill be now read a third time.
The Clerk. Question. Question is the bill be now read a third time. All those opinions say aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The Clerk.
Third reading, a bill for an act to amend the law relating to first home saver accounts, taxation, superannuation and charities, and to amend the Product Stewardship Oil Act 2000 and for related purposes.
I understand that it is the wish of the House. I'll move on to the next one. The Clerk.
Government Business Order of the Day number 2, Excise Tariff Amendment, Ethanol and Biodiesel Bill 2015.